A little while ago, I released a video detailing a Devil in Me TV show adaptation, and if you haven't seen that video, I recommend you go ahead and do so, if you want to. If you have seen it, you'll remember that I wanted the season to be about 9 episodes long, with each episode lasting about an hour long each, some more, some less. But I could only do The Devil in Me in 6 episodes. So I decided, why not have the latter 3 episodes be an adaptation of Medan? The game is about 3 hours long, so that's perfect for 3 episodes. Medan would be a part of the same show and season as The Devil in Me. It would probably be on like HBO Max or Prime or something. The 3 episodes would follow the game closely while leaning more into its twist, creating a sense of uncertainty. But with all that out of the way, I give you Episode 1. This part of the season would start as the game does, with Joe and Charlie drinking their shared PTSD away. After flirting with a woman who isn't interested and yelling at an old man, the pair return to the ship, drinking more and more to the point of total inebriation. Of course, they yell and fight, but it stopped pretty fast. Now, while this is the same season as The Devil in Me, it is a different story, so I'm not too worried about reusing actors once again. So don't worry about why Charlie is decking the judge, you feel me? Charlie is shoved into the brig while Joe is placed in the medical ward. Joe is soon awoken by the sound of artillery fire and wakes up to find a dead body. He moves to the ship before finding Charlie and releases him from his imprisonment. The dynamic duo slowly walk through the ship, with blink and you'll miss it jump scares as hallucinations start to creep in the corners. Joe and Charlie arm themselves before they end up separated. Joe enters the cargo hold only to find his own son walking towards him, wielding a knife. Joe is too scared to fire and the boy stabs Joe. The camera then cuts to show the front of Joe. Totally fine. No stab wound. But then Charlie charges behind him from the shadows in a split second and stabs him in the neck repeatedly before Joe falls to his death, bleeding out. Charlie runs away as we see the rest of the crew suffer similar fates. After a quick intro title sequence, we cut to the present day, where Alex and his little brother Brad prepare for their scuba diving trip. Brad seems anxious with all the little details considering how much all the equipment costs, but Alex reprimands him, reminding him that his girlfriend and her brother come from money. A lot of money. Sweating the little things will be embarrassing, but Brad doesn't really seem to understand. What's there to be embarrassed about? Alex drops it and even apologizes for being snappy before asking for some advice regarding a quote-unquote big life choice. And Brad suggests that Alex think it through. Whatever he does, he should consider the permutations. Alex keeps this in mind as Julia and Conrad hop on board. Brad and Conrad share a beer while Julia and Alex catch up. It's only been 2 weeks since they last saw each other, but for Alex, it feels like a really long time. While they're all drinking and laughing, a jeep pulls up and out comes Fliss, the old crust-bucket skipper. She hops on and the group makes their way out into the open ocean. They get their scuba gear ready and Julia and Alex take their first dive while Conrad's charm, or lack thereof, does nothing to Fliss, who rejects him harshly. As she should. Soon enough, the fishermen come and run to the diving line, and naturally Conrad feels the need to flex on him, something he'll learn to sorely regret. Julia and Alex escape the wrecked plane after the diving line destroys the cockpit, but Alex stops Julia before they resurface. In a difference from the game, Alex ignores his brother's advice and actually goes with his gut instead. Alex proposes to Julia, but she says no. Much to Alex's dismay, Julia swims back up to the ship, uncertain of their future. Later that night, Alex and Julia begrudgingly agree to talk about their relationship once they are back home. Alex puts away his engagement ring, forgetting the trip already. The 5 of them sit on the side of the plane and drink beer, discussing what they saw on the plane. Coordinates to Manchurian gold. Whatever that is. Fliss is noticeably angry, given the fact that she berates them for disturbing the peace, which they did. Brad tries to defend them and Conrad tries flirting, but Fliss sees through them both. The Americans have no respect for anyone. And of course, the only way to continue this conversation is by Brad telling a scary story. Something I want to highlight with this show is that these Americans have no respect for anyone. But also, neither do the fishermen, or even Fliss to an extent. The whole point of the original game was to show this and to commentate on how common xenophobia really is. After the story, they all rest for the night, and that's when the fishermen come. They knock us around and really hurt Conrad, beating him and even cutting off a part of his ear. After being tortured, Conrad finds Brad hiding under the bed and regroups with Julia and Alex, and the three of them form a plan. They could get the boat and leave, or they could take a risk and go for the gun. Always a good decision, and of course, it's the one the Americans go for. Conrad sneaks to the other side of the boat, but fails to attack Junior and is brought to the ground. Alex and Julia come up deck with scissors at Danny's neck. Olsen's next move is simple. He shoots Conrad in the neck, killing him as he also shoots Julia, grazing her head. Alex is shocked and punched by Danny as the fishermen regain the upper hand. They force the hostages back down as they toss Conrad overboard. This is obviously a little different from the original, as Conrad actually can't die unless you go for the boat and fail a QTE, but I decided to have him killed here. Switch it up a bit, you know? We cut to Alex, Julia, and Fliss under deck, held at gunpoint by one of the pirates. They ransack the place, looking for money, but instead find the paper leading them to the Manchurian gold. And what do you know? They make it just in time. Now on to Episode 2. Episode 2 starts with everyone entering the ship, and Julia, Fliss, and Alex are locked away in a room while the pirates look for the gold. Of course, the three find a way to escape and move deeper into the ship. Despite the fact that they have escaped, they'll need the distributor cap to start the boat again and get anywhere. So naturally, when the kidnappers lay the bait, Fliss just has to go get it. Of course, she is caught as Julia and Alex run away, hoping to regroup with her one way or another. Alex and Julia enter a room full of caskets and politely nope the fuck out of there before grabbing a knife for self-defense as we cut back to Fliss, who escapes Danny when he starts hallucinating and panicking, leaving her behind. Fliss is all on her own now, but thankfully finds a knife in the cargo hold as we transition to Brad, who's still been hiding in the Duke. Once he enters the ship, the hallucinations start hitting him pretty fast, but he decides to brave them, and as a reward for his efforts, he finds a gas mask. This and the mist around the characters is the first hint to the audience that it's all hallucinations. Most likely, at least. Brad barely escapes Junior before falling down into the cargo hold. We cut back to Fliss as she walks through a hallway and ends up in a gorgeous, yet creepy ballroom. Red velvet and ornate gold shimmers as Fliss decides to get some fresh air. She walks back in and the hallucinations only slightly affect her now. We see flashes of the truth and of the ballroom, but when she inspects the crate carrying the Manchurian gold, she's fully under the effects of the chemical. So much so that when someone falls from up top, landing in the hold, Fliss is terrified and stabs the figure without a thought. She runs away as we cut back to the real world, Brad bleeding out with a gas mask on. We cut back to Alex and Julia, who fall into the water. Julia hallucinates being back in the plane, finding an engagement ring in a corpse's hand before finally coming up for air and seeing two Alexes before her. Not just one, which is a little weird. One Alex drowns another, and as a show of who these people are, Julia cheers him on to kill the other one. They climb onto dry metal and try to recuperate before the other Alex is thrown up top, dead. Another soon takes his place as Alex climbs out of the water, grabbing the knife that Alex had found earlier, and the chase begins. Now, this is the big kicker here, and I really need you to hear me out on this one. But we transition to Conrad exploring the ship. No bullet in his neck. In fact, he's not even injured. In fact, he's also wearing his old clothes. Something I want to lean into is this idea of disassociating from reality. I like to think that this connects with the message, the idea of being detached from reality, literally, or being detached from reality when it comes to cultures. You get it, you're smart. So yeah, Conrad was killed, we saw this, and yet here he is, being chased by an old monster, a representation of the consequences of his actions. And we don't explain it whatsoever. We just have it happen. And we keep moving forward as we recreate one of the best chase sequences in a supermassive game to date. The best, by the way, is still Emily in the mines in Until Dawn. I just want to make that clear. Conrad runs through the ship, barely avoiding attacks as the monster slowly deteriorates more and more. They climb through vents and they climb ladders, and at the end, Conrad must either confront his demon or give up. And of course, he gives up. We cut back to Alex and Julia being chased by Michael Myers' water version and barely escape before reuniting with Fliss. The three of them run away, Conrad's body for some reason nowhere in sight. Now, episode 3 is where we fully lead into the trippy nature of the game, so let's just get right into it. By episode 3, the Manchurian Gold has fully taken over both the characters and the audience. Neither knows what's real anymore, so when I talk about these upcoming parts, and I sound like I'm not making sense, or if I sound like I misplace or misname any characters, trust me, I'm not. It's weird for a reason. This is especially true when Brad and Julia regroup on the ship and cry over Alex being killed. They eventually pull themselves together and make way for the radio, which Fliss uses when she appears completely out of nowhere to give the exact coordinates to the military. But before she can finish, the power goes out, and 2 people must go down to restart the generator while 1 stays up top. Alex and Fliss head down, while Conrad and Julia stay up top. On the way to the generator, Alex mourns Brad, as does Fliss, as they discuss the ship playing tricks on them. Maybe none of this is real. They find the generator, turn it back on, just in time for Julia to finish giving the military the information of where the ship is. We cut to Brad and Alex as they find a rebreather and decide to leave it before stumbling across Olsen, talking to an alive Danny, and then killing him. Alex and Brad make it through and escape Olsen before being held at gunpoint by Junior. He talks on and on about the mist, but the other 2 are able to calm him down, saying they've been using the rebreather to air it out of them. Junior doesn't buy it though and dies then and there. We cut back to Conrad, who hears the gunshot and rushes down to help them. This is his mess, and he's got to be the one to fix it. But he ends up in a different place, cargo hold 2. He goes down to find a crazed Olsen swinging his sledgehammer around. He tries to back off and calm him down, but that just causes Olsen to swing at him. And then, at the door, water pours in as he runs away. The cargo hold floods as Julia and Fliss flank him. Olsen hits a barrel of oil into the water. It reacts with the live cables to start a fire. The ship is sinking. Julia and Fliss try to reason with Olsen, trying to get him to hand over the distributor cap. They close in on him and Olsen stumbles back, hanging on to the edge. They grab the cap and let him fall. Another death on the ship. The rest of the episode would be Fliss, Julia, and Alex leaving the ship on the Duke. And then we'd cut back to see Julia and Alex running around the ship lost. We'd get various shots of stuff that never happened in the show. Different deaths, different events, different people in different places. The audience has lost all semblance of continuity, of sanity. Who knows what's real? And that was Medan as a TV show. Let me know what you thought. I plan to do pitches for some other supermassive games as TV shows, so let me know if it's anything you'd be interested in. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and remember, make good choices.